Hey, what's going on everybody? It's ETAPRIME back here again. Today we're going to be taking a look at the all-new GameSir X2s Type-C controller for your mobile device. This actually works for Android and iOS. I've tested it for iOS. On the box, doesn't mention anything about it, but over on their website, it does state that it works with the new iPhone 15. We've got USB Type-C on that device, so this plugs right in and actually works really well. Now, this is something I've been pretty excited about. I was a huge fan of the original GameSir X2 controller, but there were a few things here and there that I wish they would have upgraded. But it looks like on the new X2S, they did address everything that I had issues with on the original. And inside of the box, we do get some analog stick covers, a little sticker. We've also got a full English manual, got several languages in there. But let's go ahead and pull this out. And right now, they're only offering this in one color variant. Personally, I kind of like the way it's set up. Obviously, we've got kind of that SNES style or the US Super Nintendo style. I do like the purple against the gray. And again, with this, they have added Hall-based analog sticks and Hall-based linear triggers around back. This is what's called a telescopic controller or a stretchy controller. We've seen a lot of these on the market that use Bluetooth, but this is USB Type-C, so we don't have to worry about any kind of latency, and it'll do pass-through charging, so we can charge up our device while this is plugged in. They've also upgraded how fast we can charge our phone through this. We will test that out by the end of the video. No 3.5mm audio jack, and I know some people might be disappointed about that. Would have been a nice little addition to something like this. But down here, we've got our USB Type-C power input. Up top, we've got our shoulder buttons and our Hall-based linear triggers. Over here on the left-hand side, we've got our Hall-based analog stick, plus our D-pad. Now, over on the website, it just mentions micro switches for most of these buttons, but feeling this D-pad, it actually feels like it's using dome switches. Now, we will do some testing by the end of the video, but it actually has some pretty decent roll to it. Moving over to the other side, A, B, X, Y, we've also got our S button up top. Our S and G button will be used to kind of set this up in different kind of configurations. You can hold them to go into HID mode, so your Android device or iPhone will detect this as a DS5 controller. Or you can go into GameSir mode, and that mode is going to allow us to kind of map on-screen keys to these physical buttons, so it will support games that don't natively support controllers on Android. We've also got a dedicated home button down there at the bottom underneath that other analog stick. Over on their website, they state that you can throw a phone or a device in here that's 110mm up to 168mm, so 4.3 inches to 6.6 inches, and all of my phones, even the Galaxy S24 Ultra, do fit in here really nicely. We've got this flexible USB Type-C connection, so we don't have to worry about Bluetooth. Once this is plugged into your device, we've got a physical connection, so we don't have to worry about bad latency with Bluetooth. As you can see, pretty easy to get your device in there. We've got the Galaxy S24 Ultra, and this worked right out of the box. So any game that supports a controller in Android, we can use this. Usually, these are detected as Xbox controllers, and we've tested a lot of controllers over here on the channel. This one's actually being picked up as a DS5 or a PlayStation 5 controller, DualShock 5. Camera has plenty of clearance here on that S24 Ultra. And yeah, I mean, overall, it feels like a decent controller. It doesn't feel much different from the original X2. Fits in the hand quite nicely. We can reach all of these buttons. Again, linear triggers around back, Hall-based sensors. D-pad, I do think that this is using dome switches. And by the end of the video, we will test it with a fighting game. One thing just right off the bat, kind of wish it was just a tad bit higher in the controller. Just kind of feel like, when you press it down all the way, you will be hitting the frame of the controller, but it is making contact. I mean, you are pressing that button. Out of the box, you can use this with games that natively support controllers, but of course there are some games on Android that we just don't get controller support with. So therefore, we'll need some type of key mapper, and luckily they do offer their own app, the GameSir app, over on Google Play. This way, we can set this up in G-Touch mode. That's what they're calling it. Scrolling down all the way to the bottom, we do have a firmware update section. I've already updated this. We've got our Gamepad tester, and from here we can just make sure all of these buttons are working correctly. Dead zones on the analog sticks and triggers can be fully adjusted, but out of the box we're at 100% and they fall right back into place. I mean, we've got those Hall sensors here, so they're very accurate. It's also got turbo functionality built in, plus we can control the volume of our Android device with a hotkey. I'll show you that in just a bit. And from the GameSir app, we do have some more options here. We can fully adjust the dead zones on those analog sticks. And as you can see, as soon as they just snap right back in. So you can set these up a little smaller if you want to. I'm just going to leave them at 100%. We can also do the same for the linear triggers. There's also a hotkey function to make these hair triggers. You don't have to go into this app. Everything's in the manual, but I'll show you some hotkeys in just a second. Did want to give you a look at a third-party Gamepad tester. This is one I usually use. And on some lower-end controllers, once you mess around with those analog sticks a bit, they don't fall right back into the center. But even with the triggers and analog sticks here, everything's snapping right back into place. So we don't have to worry about drift or anything like that. So far, not too bad. I mean, the analog sticks do feel great, triggers are nice. I got those micro switches up top for those shoulder buttons, and all of the face buttons are utilizing micro switches. We don't have any kind of conductive pads here. Now that would have been really nice, at least for the D-pad. I can get by with those micro switches and the buttons, and I can even get by with micro switches or dome switches in the D-pad, but I sure love having, that conductive pad, just that old school D-pad feeling. Setting up turbo functionality for any of these buttons is super easy. Basically, we're going to hold the little square button or the menu button in the lower left-hand corner, and then press any of those buttons we want to go turbo. And just for a visualization, I did use the right trigger. That way we can see it kind of flapping around there in turbo mode. And if you want to disable turbo on that button, you can do the same exact thing. You can also clear all of your turbos out by holding both the home button and that menu button for 2 seconds. Just wanted to show you that this does work with those games that support controllers. Something like Minecraft just works well with all controllers. I also tested out Dead Cells. Didn't have to do any kind of configuration. Same thing here with Fortnite. So this is in HID mode, and as long as you have USB debugging turned off in your developer settings on your Android device, this is going to work like any other controller with Fortnite on Android. So yeah, it does pick it up as that DualShock 5 controller. And I didn't have to go through, remap any of the buttons. Now, of course, you could from the menu in Fortnite if you wanted to, but everything's set up really nicely. But, of course, there are some games on Android that still don't natively support controllers, and it's kind of a bummer. So if we head over to the GameSir app, we're going to start up Genshin Impact. As you can see, it asked me if I wanted to go into G-Touch mode, and in this mode, we get an on-screen overlay. So this is pretty cool because we can totally remap these buttons. We're using these on-screen touch points, and in turn, we can use our physical controller. All of this is remappable, but for most of the games out, they do have pre-made profiles that, so far, the things that I've tested, actually everything falls right into place. Something like Genshin Impact is one of those that's really great with a controller on Android, but the developers have yet to add native Android controller support for this game. And I will tell you, with this pre-made profile, one thing you might want to do is go ahead and lower the sensitivity for your camera movement. I did have to take mine down quite a bit because it was kind of all over the place, but as soon as I lowered that sensitivity, I was good to go with the camera movement in Genshin Impact. I also wanted to give you a quick look at this working with the iPhone 15 Pro Max. Recently we got Warframe on iOS, and having a controller with this game is really great. And of course, you could always connect your PS4, PS5, or Xbox controller to your phone, be it an iPhone, iPad, or even your Android device. But having one of these telescopic or stretchy controllers to hold everything together is just really nice. Plus, we don't have to worry about latency, given that we're connected over a wired connection. This is the final thing here for gameplay, but we did need to test out this D-pad with at least one fighting game. I've got Marvel vs. Capcom 2 running here using the Redream emulator. I can pull up these special moves quite easily, but again, I do wish it was raised up just a bit. It does feel like I'm kind of pressing on the body of the controller. D-pad is still registering the inputs. It's really just the feel of it to me. And if you move in a bit closer, you can see what I'm talking about. There's just not much give to the D-pad itself, but it does have some good roll. Since we've got pass-through charging here with this controller, I wanted to see if we could do any fast charging. I've got the Red Magic 7S in here, which will do up to 65 watts. This external battery also does up to 65 watts, and once we plug this in, we can get a look at the voltage and amperage, and right now, this is doing 26 watts to the Red Magic 7S. So we can do up to around 25-26 watts fast charging, which is a lot more than some other controllers on the market. Now, I wasn't expecting this to do 65 watts. None of these really will. 26 will definitely get you by. So I've been testing out the GameSir X2s on a lot of devices for the past couple days, and yeah, it's actually a pretty decent controller. Nice compact design. We've got those Hall-based analog sticks. We've got those Hall-based triggers around back. They've really kind of stepped their game up with this controller here. It'll fit basically any phone on the market right now. One of the biggest ones is the Galaxy S24 Ultra, and that's exactly what we have here. Love the overall design. We've got up to that 26-watt real-world fast charging through that USB Type-C port. So if you've been looking for one of these USB Type-C telescopic controllers, this is something that I could definitely recommend. Really, the only thing that I'm seeing here is that D-pad just being so close to the body itself. And it's not a deal killer for me because the D-pad is still working quite nicely. It would have been nice to have it raised up just a hair. But that's going to wrap it up for this one. If you're interested in learning a little more about the GameSir X2s, I'll leave some links in the description. If you've got any questions, let me know in the comments. And like always, thanks for watching.